Willkommen in der Center Debate zum zweiten und vorerst letzten TFNation Spezial von Humans and Robots, einer Retrospektive auf die IDW-Saga Escalation. Und mit dabei sind Nick Roche, James Roberts und Jack Lawrence. Viel Spaß!
And TFNation's prize beefcake, Mr. Jack Lawrence, come on.
I know what you're thinking. Take that and let themselves go. Do you remember?
I was more thinking kind of boys or kind of feel like Mikey Graham here right now. That's a deep cut.
It's a bit much,
Spotlight's on the I used it by now, to be fair.
All those interrogation memories, you know. I can do hours without saying anything I know.
In all fairness, anyone who's been to a panel at TFNation knows that's an absolute lie. So, probably best to talk about phase two. Kind of starts really with some little thing called Last Stand of the Records that one of us has been milking for the better part of a decade now.
Absolutely. Desiccated cow that is Last Stand of the Records, the dust emanating from its udders.
But let's pretend there are some people here who haven't read it or are unfamiliar. Is there actually anybody here who hasn't read Last Stand of the Records and is brave enough to put their hand up? Oh, well done.
You noobs!
Yeah, it's more of a protest photo, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All hell nation for alive, mother records.
So you're about to get a very good sales pitch, and afterwards we do expect you to go and buy a copy from this man's table.
Whose table? Have you got a copy?
You know, a copy.
What is records?
What do you need to know about records? Well, yeah.
How did it come about in terms of, did you pitch it, did they come to you?
It was one of those rare occasions when they came to me. I had been pestering them for work ever since Spotlight Cup. So it was printed in 2007. And then they changed direction after that. That was when they sort of kind of cut the Asians direction short. And they went the old Hell Megatron route. And so it kind of seemed like that was that. Like kind of Simon was out and kind of all the various plot threads were out. And like where I left Cup at the end of the Spotlight was nowhere where he was in All Hell Megatron. So I thought, that was that. But then they decided that they needed to tie up a few loose ends. All Hell Megatron was due to be a 12-issue series, and then they extended it by 4 issues to do some half-page coda stories that could kind of fill in some gaps with some of the other writers and kind of be the connective tissue from All Hell Megatron to their new ongoing direction, because they're going to plan to relaunch everything with Mike Costa doing the ongoing Transformers series, the Sammlerszene Bumblebee series, and then we're going to look for a third series after that as well. So they asked me to do a story to explain why Cup is fit and healthy in All Hell Megatron, compared to how he was left at the end of Spotlight. And so I wrote that. That was well received. And then I happened to be at BotCon 2009, and Denton Tickton, the editor at the time, took me up for lunch, and he said, I remember I think before we got to lunch, I said, I want to take you to lunch because I want to ask you if you want to be interested in doing a record series. And I said, oh yeah, absolutely, who's going to write it? And then he was like, you are. And I genuinely was like, I don't know, really do that. And I started thinking, I might see if I can get James involved and stuff, because I've been trying to sort of get James in IDW for a while. I've been sort of like helping him kind of get pitches on the table and things like that. But then they said, no, we want you to write it. And I was like, okay, I think I've got an idea. And I had an idea, and most of it was accepted, but a lot of it kind of kept getting pushed back by the editorial who at that stage was Andy Schmidt with Denton Tickton, and Andy kind of had a more hands-on more dogmatic sort of idea about how he wanted this new launch to go. He wasn't very kind of au fait with Transformers UK or Wreckers or kind of why they're important. He was very much focused on the Mike Costa series, the Sammlerszene series, and Wreckers was like a sop thrown to fans basically to kind of fill in the gaps and say, hey, we know you like this sort of stuff from years ago, but this is for you guys. And he didn't really kind of back it, to be fair to say. So he kept like knocking back some of the ideas. I kept getting further behind because I was trying to sort of pull this writing and the artwork together. But kind of by the time issue 1 was in production, it was clear that I was going to need some co-writing assistance. So we needed to get like a pitch together that was fully accepted and kind of signed off on. And that's when I hit James up. So it was around this time, literally 10 flipping years ago. Because it was like Auto Assembly in 2009 when people were asking me, I was able to Next Records, but at that stage I wasn't able to sort of tell everyone that you were kind of coming on board. that's how it happens. James was there very early on, but not at the very beginning, but enough to sort of like make marks in issue 1 that need to be sort of spun off in further issues, and then after that it's sort of like the James and Nick show after that, really. So that's
I do remember the nudge, wink, wink. Yeah, there'll be some help along the way. And
there will be, yeah. Well, I think like I hate that side of the industry where it's like, oh, what are you working on? I can't tell you. And it's like it's just because you can't really, you know. Sometimes you just can't tell people what's kind of coming up and stuff. But it's really infuriating. It does make you look like a prize cheese, doesn't it? You know. So, but it's a prize cheese. But like, I obviously, but you know, like I'm like everyone else here. I just want to talk Transformers and tell you, here's what I know is coming. There's a record's coming, and James Roberts is going to be writing it. And so it was, yeah, it was exciting times. But it's just good to get James's feet in the door. His well pedicured, Guernsey, sun-kissed, bronze. Feet.
Just keep it clean, gentlemen. Just keep it clean.
Wait until I get on Jack Lawrence's feet. Christ alive.
People would pay to be.
I mean, we can literally both get on the feet and just use them as canoes. There's
toes are like a child's fist.
when I got into reach my
This is the most beautiful part.
so I'm at the table with Jack in the hall, and so when I'm reaching down for stock to give to people, I lean down every time I just see these. Every time I get back up the table, I think, oh, I'm not being pregnant.
Normally hidden behind a paywall or something.
Phase 2 of my coming start.
Please change the subject.
Yeah, so James, you're coming on board. In terms of co-writing with Nick, what does that look like? What's bickering? Is it
Oh my god, what it looks like actually.
It looks like all unanswered emails from both parties. Anyone who knows this.
Yeah, it's like a kind of like unresponsive email brinkmanship. Actually, what sort of looks like is lots of sort of messaging, isn't it? MSN stuff that that's never seen on that day, really. Just.
Oh man, we would be cancelled, all the way cancelled if that stuff gets out. Like so, yeah, it's dark.
No, lots. Yeah. So in terms of to actually answer your question, we worked out it's probably about 2.5 hours in the day when we're both up, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
So a lot of it happened then, sort of live. But no, we would.
Well, essentially we both kind of had day jobs.
Yeah.
My day job was drawing the comic, and then you kind of had like a kind of a grown-up civilian day job.
Yeah.
So when it came to actually writing, there was small windows to kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did. There was a lot more so with records than I think subsequently for either of us. There was a lot of back and forth with editorial, and that, I think, was partly because of the people in the jobs, but also because we were me far more than Nick. You know, we were sort of, well, Nick was tested, but you know, still we were. They kept us on a pretty tight leash then, and I think, I mean, Nick's right. It was quite a deliberate strategy back then. You know, the Costa ongoing was sort of the flagship. That was going to have the widest possible appeal. Bumblebee Mini was aimed at a younger audience, and Records was sort of the red meat to the old school fans. But even within that context, you know, we had to sort of prove that it worked as a story. I mean, it was
the ending that there was kind of problems with, and kind of villain's motivation, and I think we both learned a lot, kind of how much we were forced to break story and kind of things like that. But I genuinely still feel that there was a lot of stuff there was a lot of kind of pushback for people that didn't need to be kind of done. We were under a lot more scrutiny than the other two series.
Yeah.
There was a lot more kind of like, oh, this isn't good enough, you need to try harder. And I feel like 10 years on I can sort of say this now. It's sort of like I think it benefited us, but I think the other series could have done with it as well. So I said that.
What else? We were. And there was questions about who would survive the series as well. And I know it's been said before, but at various stages, different characters were saved because of a sort of affection towards them, felt like other people. Springer and Perception.
Springer was originally going to die because we figured that's the way to go, and then we were asked not to do that. But we were asked to change that. People ask us often, "Oh, has Roy ever interfered?" And that was kind of one of the only times that there was like a kind of a late in the day sort of like, you can't do that. And it was them asking when we were working on issue 4, can you not kill Springer at issue 5, even though it's been leading that way? And so it was like, okay, who do you want us to kill? I think we suggested preceptor, and then because Denton Tipton is what would better refer to as a stan for preceptor, you're not killing a preceptor. I was like, okay, and then they suggested you can kill Cup, and I'm like, you can.
I was happy to kill anybody.
Yeah, you had the cellophane and the line bag of line at the back of the van ready to sort of throw bodies into pits.
But I mean, expectations were low for records, weren't they, from outside of us and the other sort of creators. But I think it was the expectation was that it would appeal to a subset of fans, and then it would sort of fade away.
Well, again, I feel happy enough in saying that it's not at the top brass, not like the Chris Roy level of IDW. There were people in IDW telling us this is not expected to sell well or do well. This is literally to sort of kind of keep some people happy. This is why we're low printing, and I don't know. I think it's clear the legacy of records because it led to more of ECI and ties in more of ECI and subsequently lost light. And there's a kind of I think out of the 3 series that kind of kicked off that time. Fill in your own blanks, because it's almost sound like a kid if I say it, but it's kind of.
Which one has the big, massive, oversized hardcover edition?
That's what I'm saying. No, but we were lucky. I remember we didn't expect it to do well. We put our heart and soul into it, which we do with everything we've done. Like, and the 3 of us, we talked about before how we all work on Transformers like we own it, like it's a creator-owned project, and for better or for worse, and probably not for the best for our own bank balances. But I think it's the stuff that kind of connects with the readers then, and that's why we end up kind of having a good relationship with the people who read it. But I just remember message boards as it was. Do you remember message boards? And just getting the feedback that first Wednesday and just hitting F5 and just like we did it. And every issue thinking that bubble's gonna burst. Just like every convention we come to, it was like, no, this is the year it's gonna burst. Yeah. And but every issue it seemed to be people were with it and they were invested, and started seeing kind of people just really investing in characters that I hadn't seen done in Transformers comics before. And I think that also had to do, with the type of audience that were arriving, kind of partially off the back of the Michael Bay movies. So there was a more diverse audience, weirdly enough. The Michael Bay movies, aren't great, and they're definitely not good from a sort of a kind of a diverse or woke point of view, but they definitely switch people onto the idea that Transformers are a thing, and okay, I kind of like bits of it. Is there more of this stuff that I do like in the comics that we haven't been able to see kind of reaching those readers? So yeah, it seemed to be. It was good. It was good times.
But I think partly because the expectations weren't huge for records, there wasn't anything lined up after that for us.
No.
And I think we kind of thought, well, the critical feedback, it was critically well received, and the fans seemed to like it, and there was a bit of a buzz. So as issue 4 was coming out, issue 5 came out, I thought, okay, well, we'll wait for our instructions now. What are we going to line up next? And then it went quiet.
It did go quiet, and then I think I wasn't terribly happy work-wise with some of the things in IDW, so I kind of took a step back and said, I'm just not really kind of interested. But whereas, because I've been doing it a few years at that stage as well, whereas it was kind of you had been sort of blooded, you were sort of like, me bored, and so it's kind of, so you were sort of kind of primed, ready for when the next chances kind of came, and you were ready to make those chances count then, So, yeah.
So, I mean, if we're telling a story then of the sort of phase 2, then what happened after that was an attempt. So, up to that point, the IDW continuity, it all takes place in the same continuity, obviously, but at various points you have to squint more than other times to make it, or fit, as Nick was saying before, there's some emergency surgery needed sometimes, to explain this or explain that. And so around about 2010 into 2011, IDW had the idea of creating sort of a brain trust, a sort of a continuity guardians, creators and editors that would sort of hammer it out and decide, what's definitively happened and where are we heading. And when we do embark on a new series or mini-series or event, make sure that it all aligns with everything else. And so after Records, my next responsibility with IDW was to be part of this gang of 4 with Mike Costa was there as well, and Schmidt as the editor, and then Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, who were being brought on as part of the 2012 sort of soft relaunch, really, all the ECI and Brothers in Disguise. So they came on board as well, and we worked together at the plotting stage around chaos. We started planning for chaos. They were doing Heart of Darkness, Abnett and Lanning, 2 years ahead, and it encompasses the what became known as the Death Optimus Prime one shot, and what became known as the one meets the Miracles in the Sky. So yeah, so that was post records immediately for me, was sort of kind of doing behind the scenes stuff, but wanting to tell stories sort of directly, you know, rather than sort of tweaking stuff here and there.
Was that where chaos theory came about then? Is that what kind of,
yeah,
that was unusual that you got to sort of like write to issues of essentially another writer's
ongoing. So that happened. So the plan had been, so I pitched the Megatron story to Andy, so coming off the records wave, and I just wanted to, because I hadn't really followed IDW's comics from the start. It was when Nick got work with them, then I sort of paid attention. So by this point, you know, in writing records, I caught up, and I don't think we've really looked at why. I mean, there'd been Megatron Origin, but I was unclear as to sort of Megatron's present day motivations, and I wanted to, and he'd been arrested, and you know, he'd surrendered rather, and he was captive, and I just wanted to do like a done in one, you know, done one heavy sort of thing, exploring his motivations, and so I pitched that, and that would be a sort of a one shot. And then they said, actually, you can make it a two-parter if you want, and so I could bring in sort of Optimus Prime stuff. And then it was going to be unusually like a micro series, just 2 issues outside of everything else. And then at the very last minute, I got an email from Andy saying, I've just come out of an editorial meeting. The publishing schedule's all changed. Your story's now going to be folded into the ongoing issues 22 and 23, and some other sort of adjustments were needed. So in its earliest incarnation, that Megatron one shot was going to feature the DJD. Actually, it was going to be they were going to attempt to rescue him, and then all of the stuff, sort of flashbacks and the first meeting of Megatron would have been referenced, but we wouldn't have witnessed it. So making it a two-parter gave me an opportunity to sort of lay the foundations for what became what meets the eye.
And so from there, you take co-writing duties on the ongoing towards the end with Mike Costa to sort of wrap up.
Yeah, strictly on the plotting side, apart from when there were scenes with what were going to be the One Meets the Eye cast, and Mike said, well, you can script those if you like. So I did, and sort of started to see some of the Swerve and his wound and the Asian 113 and stuff. That there's little hints and seeds in there, brainstorms in there, his briefcase. Yeah, it was a funny time really. I think it was a little bit in flux. I mean, so Andy and Dan had done Heart Darkness, and they were going to do One Meets the Eye. They were going to do the space-based one, which was then called Robots in Disguise. And for reasons, I don't know why, but they had a reason. They said it's not really for us anymore, so they stepped away.
I think part of it was when they stopped working together.
Yeah, I don't know when the split came relative to that decision, but yeah,
it was working together by 2013. So I think if that was kind of 2012 time, there was maybe kind of
2010.
Well, they did the station together in 2010, didn't they? So yeah, so maybe it was after that. I don't know. And then which one they did to so yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think definitely they had stopped working together.
Yeah.
So I remember getting the phone call from Andy Schmidt saying that they had sort of departed, and that they were going to be looking for a new writer for the next direction of Transformers. And I was like, oh yeah, and I went, yeah, and we've got your pal James Roberts writing it. I was like,
that's great. I'm so happy for him.
It was fine.
Thank you as always. Sure. I need to say something else then. What was I going to say? So when Dan and Andy said thanks but no thanks, it was going to be Mike Costa was going to do the political Cybertron based ongoing was going to be Mike's. Dan and Andy were going to do the what became sort of All Meets the Eye. And I think, and then when Mike Costa said, you can see what I mean by it, it was all getting a little bit unsettled, because then Mike said, actually, no, I don't want to do the ongoing either. After Chaos and Police Action, that would be the end of it for me. And so then they approached John Barber.
And so you've kind of talked several times about having the grand plan for More Than Meets the Eye, but what sort of confidence was there internally in terms of the length of that book? Because we all know the comics industry now is replete with ongoing issues, ongoing series that don't last past a year.
Yeah, so John and I were both told to plan for 16 issues, but you know, at the same time, it might be that after 12 we have to stop. So there was, you know, there was limited confidence, and I don't know what the biggest story was at the time. I don't know what the sales figures were particularly, but you know, IDW had. I think it's fair to say if you sort of look at the story so far with IDW, they they brought Simon on board obviously from the beginning, and it was almost the opposite of where we were in 2011 planning for the ongoings. You know, with Simon, it was a case of you've got time to build. You know, there'll be a succession of miniseries. You know, you can see ideas. Take your time. And then probably there was all hail Megatron was, to all intents and purposes, a reboot, and then there was a panic about sort of not wanting to alienate that portion of the fan base that was invested in the Asian stuff. So a bit of retroactive sort of continuity patching then, and then there was sort of a period of I guess sort of a bit of a wobble in terms of confidence, and that meant an ongoing which would then be relaunched as 2 ongoings, but don't get too invested in them essentially, and you might need to do it again. So one thing about phase 2 is that once more than meets the eye and Robots in the Skies landed and were pretty well received, sort of it all calmed down a bit, and it was, and we were allowed, so we all know that we went for a long time, and with the big change which we might talk about in terms of the end of the war, we wanted that to stick, and it was allowed to stick, and it just things just calmed down a bit, and I think we found our groove.
Honestly, so Jack, you came in a little bit later with the Lost Light cover for Sins of the Records. Did Nick go back for you as well, or did he leave you fend for yourself the way we suspect he did, the heartless fiend?
It was May 2016 that I just got an email out of the blue from John, relatively out of the blue from John Barber, because I'd done some inking for Micronauts. And I'd worked on Skylanders at IDW for a year, and they needed an issue of Micronauts to be inked in emergency fashion, so they kind of doled out David Hedgecock said, "Are you free to do 4 pages of Micronauts?" I said, "Yeah, buy them over in a day." They were back with them inked, and John Barber emailed me and said, "Really love those inks you did." And I was like, "Thank you very much, I want to work on Transformers." And he said, yeah, Nick and James have both mentioned your name. Didn't give me any further context than that, so I don't know where I'm there.
Blacklisting.
I said, bringing on Nick said over my
Utterly unsurprising. He's nothing if not a champion for everyone else, is he?
I asked for you and I asked for James.
So yeah, and then I was at a convention in May 2016, and this email just came in and said, we're kind of rebooting All That Meets the Eye. We're not sure what it's going to be called yet. Are you up for it? And I was absolutely, and then immediately thought, hang on, what does that mean about taking over from Alex Milne? But okay, we're going to go for it. So I kind of fully knew that the shoes. It was my favourite comic. That's the thing. I'd stopped because I've been a huge comic collector since as far back as I can remember. I've wanted to be a comic artist for as long as I can remember, and I've been a comic artist in the industry since 2003. So I've worked on all sorts of different stuff. Transformers is kind of at the end of my career to date. So I knew the book was my favourite book, and I'd stopped collecting all other comics because More Than Meets the Eye gave me everything that I wanted in a comic. And also the comic artists, you don't have very good money, so you have to really pick and choose what you can read. I felt the weight of it, but I absolutely wanted to do it. Knowing these guys from TFUK and TNUK, and just kind of coming full circle was glorious. So I jumped at the chance, and it was kind of pretty seamless working together. I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, we had history, didn't we? But we haven't really.
No, I think 97 was the last time we had worked together.
Jack and James worked on what is one of my favourite Transformers comics ever, and it was an issue of the continued Generation 2 fanzine from 1997, the Christmas issue, and it's called Atonement. and it's one of those sort of introspective sort of character pieces that James does. But but I've never read anything like that in comic form, Transformers wise, or even comics wise. It was just a really, really good character piece, and Jack just drew the absolute life out of it, and it's still genuinely one of my favourite Transformers comics. It's just they had it even at that stage. So I was kind of sorting through my old childhood home recently, and I came across it and stuff like that, and I was just like, oh, damn it, it is as good as I remember. So no, it's been like 20 years in the making, but like got there in the end. I'm glad you got to get what a bunch of socially inept men in the 90s received. So you got the
That was the pitch for anything.
yeah, exactly, yeah. You got the refined version, so yeah.
Yeah, socially awkward men in the 90s, but in comic form.
They're my favourite band.
Yeah. I mean, that was. I don't know what your structure for this chat is. So we're
More just to get a feel for sort of now, because it was sort of just winding down last year. Everyone was sort of
Yeah, we had one issue to come out.
Yeah.
We were done. We
Yeah.
finished what we needed to do.
but it hadn't hit the stands yet. So now it's had that time, and you've seen the reaction. What are your thoughts? Yourself looking back at what you've done.
I couldn't be prouder of what we did, and it stands as the highlight of my career. And right now, I can't see where it's possible. Not that I can't see, but it's possible that nothing will ever live up to it, and I'll never be as happy in my career as that again. And that's fine, because you don't. A career is not all high. It will never be. I still love what I do, but there was something. It was working on Transformers, working on that particular book, working with that creative team, and that's not just. I'm not constantly flattering James. It was Joanna as the colorist, David Marriott as the editor, and it was just this lovely little, extremely communicative group of people. And I certainly haven't had that before or since, to that extent, where you and I will be discussing things on DM entirely separate from everyone else, and that was because I very much felt part of the process, and also you made it clear that you trusted me to. You didn't give. There were times where you didn't give art direction because you knew, because we had that. I hate to use the word synergy, but there it is. You knew what you were going to get with me, and I knew what you were going to. There was the one point where I thought I might have to kind of question what was happening was issue 25. And I don't know if you know this, but when I read the script, I got so depressed that I think this is the last issue. I don't think we can do this. And then, obviously, by the end of it, I can't see what he's done. Of course,
You put it way to the end.
You just start to form an opinion on your. But that's the only time where I kind of. But it all worked out brilliantly. But I was in a bad place anyway, because that was the last issue.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is the last time I'm going to be working with these characters.
No, I mean it's difficult to talk about it without it being very.
But the truth is that wasn't the last time I worked with those characters, because all I draw now is those characters smooching. And I can only thank everyone in this room for the glory that brings to my life.
I think we're all responsible for a spike in canoodling in the TF universe.
I lean into the parental angst side of things. I've got that one covered.
That's true, yeah.
I like frightened dads coming up and saying, I really identified with records. You see the next series, alright, my god. But it's true. I remember when we got the news that it was kind of wrapping up, and it was sort of like, I was kind of blasé about it. And then as you get closer to it, and I wasn't on any of the ongoings and stuff, you sort of realise, kind of like how you sometimes realise when you're at these shows and you're meeting people like Simon or even EJ, and you're like, oh, hang on, sometimes you forget how much these people kind of mean to you. Sometimes you forget how much Transformers mean to you, because for us it's our job, so that's the mode you're switched on. And then suddenly you're like, I really love these guys, I really love these characters, I really love this work. And like similarly, I was okay about it, even writing Requiem the records, but when it comes to drawing it, there was something, like you felt it as well, it's like, oh jeez. It's such a strange thing, because there is a little part of it is always, you're always afraid of, like, if I'm being disaffected by the thing I'm working on, am I enjoying the smell of my farts a bit too much? yes I am, because well, it's. But no, you like if you're not. I think I said we make these things like we own them. Like if you're not invested in them on that level, you know, there's probably someone else out there who could do your job better and stuff. But it's
that's comics. That's any. You have to have because it is a hard life.
Yeah.
You don't have a passion for it.
No, I know, but it's getting to the end, and you don't often get to be the one to sort of kind of essentially hold someone's hand at the end.
Yeah.
And that's what we were kind of doing with ourselves and kind of with each other, and then with the reader too, and we will hopefully have long careers in comics, and we will end up drawing stuff that we're not as in love with, that we enjoy doing. And so I think we will probably have a series where we might end up doing the last issue of the thing. We're like, oh, thanks guys, that was fun. But I don't, you know,
I guess that's the difference.
If
you're in comics, you have to have a passion for comics.
Yes.
But we have a passion for comics and Transformers.
It's that sort of intense, sort of like, you know, kind of like recursive sort of like stab in the heart. So it was weird because it was, you know, some ways I was sort of like happy to kind of content to look at, because I got my dream job first. You were talking about how kind of Transformers was kind of the end of your career up to a certain point. But there is always that point of like, well, but it's still your dream job, and so you're after that, you're like, well, what do I do now? And once you achieve your dream, you're like, what next and stuff. So I was kind of like, I had achieved it quite a while, and I thought I was okay about it ending. And then, it's weird. It's a weird feeling, but it's good that you feel that way. Like I said, because I mean, maybe it could have easily gone the way where you're just kind of hacking it through, but you know, so it's that I got to sort of be part of the finale. The kind of the side serving to the finales that the guys were kind of cooking up, but it was a treat getting to read, especially Lost Light 25. You know, it was a really special one. So it's good that we got it, isn't it? You know, because it's kind of, I don't know if we ever thought we'd get that, especially a finale that was as well thought out. You for quite some time. You for about 18 months, really. You were as far as Lost Light goes.
Yeah, I remember telling you. It's probably one of these, probably here, a few years ago, but talking through what happens at the end.
Yeah, well, what happens at the end, but then even knowing that the ending was near, you had, the name changed to Lost Light, you were writing more of Lost Light knowing it was the end than you were thinking it was going to ongo, you know?
Yeah, I guess, it was halfway through, I mean, increasingly when you know, as time passes and you can step back and sort of, you know, take it in as a whole, you know, one is just struck by how there was, apart from a few tiny sort of hairy moments or just incredible amounts of I'm looking outside of me, you know, talented people and luck. You know, to be able for pretty much the same creative team, or the same recombinations of the same people, but nonetheless the same people, pretty much from 2011, you know, to last year, telling a single story, and given a lot. Maybe speaking more for more Spezial and Lost Light here, giving a lot of creative leeway, a lot of creative freedom. The nature of our story lent itself to that. We were pretty much, because we were away from Cybertron, we were away from Earth. We weren't as affected by you know, the sort of Hasbro-verse stuff. We were sort of already well committed to a particular story, but increasingly looking back, to have been given, you know, depending on how you do maths, more or less 100 issues from, you know, Wreckers or Chaos Theory onwards, 100 issues to tell a story, largely uninterrupted, largely allowed to do exactly what you want to do with the very best, you know, co-creators. I don't think that's going to happen again, really. And it does, you know, us sitting here testifies to the unique sort of, there's fans of everything, but there is something about the Transformers fandom, and I've been part of it for a long time. It amplifies everything, and so the Lost Light experience, the More Than Spezial experience, was just enhanced by this the people enjoying. You could feed off the good. I can't believe I'm saying it. Feed off the good energy, the support for it. But yeah, that'll enhance the experience, and it made it really something very special, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And for years, when I see movie stars or whatever, and they'll say, you know, oh, I love you guys, and I've always thought, that's not true, is it? You're just, you know, to their audience. So I go up for an Oscar speech, and I love you all. Don't. But yeah, you probably do, because I love all of you. You're just so the whole community is just so amazing and so warm and so giving, and you know, coming to TFNation just feels like just coming home, just coming into a family situation.
you don't want to let your friends down. You always want, and that ends up being the feeling, I think, with the relationship that, more than us, but us three, I can speak for us three, I think we feel very heavily of like, we don't ever want to let you down, you know, and you know, you're not going to please everyone the whole time, but you at least want the readers. And he hates saying fans and stuff like that, and then friends sounds like it's sort of a real, but you know, but definitely people who have invested in us, to kind of at least show that we're giving it our very, very best, you know. And it's kind of like, and I know the blood, sweat and tears that we all put into it. I know we did, like, so.
I mean, it's sort of externally, the external decisions taken generally have benefited us too. I mean, it's really rare to be given, you know, I think you can either call it a year or what, 13 issues, advance notice, you know, to sort of wrap things up. That doesn't happen very much at all. And as I said, you know, sort of the seven-year story, you don't get a chance to tell that very often. Even the fact that the continuity came to an end was a good thing, in the sense that, okay, well, we can wrap things up and know they'll stay wrapped up. And that's no reflection on what came after. It's just, you know, that was a useful note of finality. So
rare to have it.
And I think that I'm sort of, my experience is a little bit coloured by not having, you know, written for the big two or done those type of comics where you're forever resetting things. You know, you're always sort of you're harking back to the status quo, and I certainly Phase 2 in particular was never about that. It was forever pushing onwards and outwards.
I think we're going to find that we were spoiled in some ways. The more we hopefully we have more road ahead of us in our career, and it's weird because like Transformers, you know, we're the cool kids, so we know how good this stuff is and that it is the best. And I think we always felt that as well. We wanted to evangelize and tell everyone, well, this should and could be the biggest comic ever, but it never reached that level, and I don't know if it ever will, to be honest. To the point that, you know, other people outside of Transformers in the comics industry, they won't look at it, they won't like or retweet a Transformer or pros them. It's like Transformers are almost invisible to them, you know? And it's a weird thing. But if we ever get to do more stuff elsewhere that isn't creator-owned stuff, I think we're going to find just how much freedom we have to kind of create something with the kind of the passion and the freedom, and kind of like just using all the corners of our imagination and all the corners of our skill sets instead of having stuff dictated to us as the big two. As much as it is fun to play with those toys, I think you get more of a feeling that you're borrowing the toys, whereas I think for a long time we felt like we owned the Transformers. You know?
I think a lot of I agree with that. I do think that a lot of the Phase 2 era did see sort of the comics reach new audiences. Well, certainly reach new audiences in terms of, you know, Transformers fans, but even then, it's sort of you'd see it referenced, or you'd see, you know, a panel, or you'd see other critics talk about, you know, Robots in Disguise and One Meets the Eye Lost Light. Perhaps in a way which I haven't before. You know, it's still nice to see. I mean, it did well, you know, in comicsology. You'd see it. Yeah. You'd see it in places you wouldn't normally see it.
No, it's true. And like I said, the cool kids thing was kind of, you know, really, really cool people in comics who were kind of taking notice, and it's kind of, there's people like, you know, Jason Aaron who's a fan and stuff, isn't he? And like John Allison, people like that, and it's kind of, and they're, you know, passionate and keen and stuff, but it's just weird. It never kind of, it wasn't our fault because we were there, or you guys' fault. It just never seemed to. It seemed to be hard to convert other people in some ways. I suppose people are just still off put by the fact that they're robots, and they don't understand that they have character motivations and feelings and desires and drives and all that sort of stuff. And like we strip mine that in the last 5 years, you know. Kind of, you know, if there was anyone, I don't know if anyone ever did describe Transformers as not having the same sort of wants and needs as other characters. But if they did, you know, I think the last 5 years would have kind of like, you know, proven wrong, I think. So yeah.
I think that's a good moment to open up the floor to any questions.
At the back.
Yep, you and your hand up, looking confused.
I have two questions, is that okay? One
Yeah.
for Nick and one for Nick. Hello. Nick, one time I was just on TFNation, as you do, and I was looking through last stand of the records notes, and I noticed how, in sort of alternate reality, you had planned to actually have Grimlock and Scorponok in it. And there was like this whole plan of having like Grimlock drugged up on Nucleon, and he would have been basically stuck in beast mode, and instead of the whole, you either ask yourself off or you faced Overlord, it was going to be either you ask yourself off or you became literal Grimlock Shadow.
Yeah.
I just really wanted to know, like, turn back the clock. Let's say in an alternate reality, if you went with this storyline, what would you have done with the character? Like, would you have had him like off one of the wreckers? Would one of the wreckers off top him in some Game of Thrones sort of twist? Would he have come back to his senses? Would he face Overlord? And would he have been killed by Overlord? Or would he have like survived by the end and then realized he didn't have a place for the Autobots and kind of just rolled off into the sunset on his own?
I think even I would have balked at the idea of having him kill one of his fellow Autobots, even though I had Cup do exactly that, like, you know, 2 years previously. I was like, I've done that bit. So I think I would have found a way to kind of, that he wouldn't have killed any of the wreckers, or they would have been forced to kill him. It would have been the case of, because I was too close to, too much of a fan, I figured, well, if we're on Gareth's line, Grimlock and Scorponok are there, and we owe it to people to explain why they're there, and that is one of the genuinely really good notes that we got to say, you don't need this in your story, you know, it's kind of, especially, you know, you're tying into sort of, like, yeah, you're dragging people kind of back instead of like moving the story forward. If we had done that, I would love to have written those stories some way, but Grimlock, kind of in the same way as Prowl, he's such kind of a black hole of a character, or he can be, that everyone would kind of get pulled into his orbit. And he also makes the Wreckers seem a bit less special by the fact that he's flipping Grimlock, you know? So it's like, how are you going to believe these guys are badasses and stuff? These like bunch of 1992 pink-eyed European exclusives are any sort of kind of a threat to get behind, you know, when you've got Grimlock there. So the stuff I would love to have done with Grimlock, it would have been a case where he would have, they would have had the usual superhero crossover. The good guys fight each other and then they somehow become friends in the end. But it was a case of being too close to the stuff that Simon had done, especially coming off Maximum Dinobots, and thinking that if we don't mention Grimlock and Scorponok or acknowledge them somehow, we're letting the readers down. But we were promised at one stage. Remember Andy Schmidt sort of said, because we were both kind of, he was in the mix quite late in the day, Grimlock. To the fact that Andy said to both of us, look, if you guys love Grimlock so much, I'll let you guys do a Grimlock one shot. Did he?
Yeah, there was more than talk. We had plans for Dinobot Origin.
Yeah. So that's how it was. He made it to multiple drafts, but they were just outline drafts. There was never anything where anything was kind of like dialogued or kind of really blocked out. But
it was my perspective was pain. He was there actually. It was just too distorted. I mean, we had to. The cleanest explanation was, well, he's just gone. And we didn't, at that point, we didn't need to know where he'd gone or who'd taken him, whatever. It was just, he's literally been removed from the story.
I think there's a kind of like first-time writer syndrome with me, because it was my first series, kind of thinking I needed to kind of cover every gap, and that's not the case. Lots of things learned on record, and that was one of those things. It's just kind of, you know, just by keeping the story moving one direction, you know, instead of kind of dragging people back and kind of filling them in and stuff. So. No, it's good. I would love to have done that adventure somewhere along the line as a side story, but as far as Last Time on the Records, he had no place there really. Some bad even make the cut.
Yeah, ultimately I agree with the decision. They need some fake character moving over them. And now I'm just crushed that we need to get Nick Roche and James Robert dying a lot more than story. So we got to.
James. Yeah, well, one of the things when like we were trying to sort of get James sort of like name underneath the IDW editors, because we pitched stuff, well, kind of helped pitch. James was doing some solo pitches and I helped out with some artwork occasionally. It's quite interesting how nearly all those sort of pitches were subsequently stripped mine for more than the eye or lost light in some ways.
Don't waste an idea.
No, absolutely not. And also never give away an idea in a kind of an informal situation, because some of these temptations arenas is to sort of go, here's what we could have done, but if you say that, well, now you can't use that story even if you renamed it or rebranded it as something else. But yeah, no, there was a kind of Dinobots versus kind of Seacons sort of deal going on, wasn't there? I think like with Swoop being a kind of new recruit. Won't say more just in case we ever do get to that. But that was kind of, you know, it was even before Records, we were kind of talking about it as like an A-team situation, the Dinobots being the A-team. There's another question for James, was there?
Oh yeah, no, sorry. Surprise, surprise, it's another Grimlock oriented question.
Are you sure you're going to do this?
I just wanted to say I really liked how you respected the character Grimlock, and you really took him in a new angle with this whole tragic backstory of him having brain damage, because I think we've all kind of thought that there was something like a sort of a mental disability with him, just no one wanted to say it out loud. I just thought it was really interesting how either a character was either been portrayed as this arrogant brute or this comic relief. I really wanted to know what made you think to take this character in such a new way, but just something that's still familiar to the character.
To be brutally honest, I've never been a Grimlock fan, and I know.
Simon Furman has got it.
I mean, I'm not anti-Grimlock, but you think you're a favourite, so you think of the one, and Grimlock's great. It's just he's over there doing his thing. But it didn't really excite me, and Drift as well. So I'm mentioning Drift for a reason. So when anguish, noise from that interested me and that represented a little bit of it wasn't disrespectful to the pre-existing character, but just explored a different facet. It's a bit harder to do that with Grimlock, but making him dependent and putting him in the company of the scavengers sort of ticked multiple boxes. Story-wise, it created a new dynamic from the off. It helped the scavengers on their own journey towards kind of redemption or whatever. Their sort of their fresh appreciation of sort of post-war life. So it helped that. To be brutally honest, it kept the. As Nick was saying, Grimlock is just such a powerful character that it does the arc of the story bends towards the light, bends towards him sort of narratively. So that's an awful thing to say, but you know what I mean. So I sort of that new phase in his life just threw up different situations that were interesting for me to explore.
Awesome, thank you guys.
Kind of run on time, so we'll have one last quick question.
Yeah, over here.
Yep.
This way. Guys?
Mike runners there.
Go for it.
Open to all three. 2 questions.
A couple of quick questions, so you're only getting to one.
3 parts each question, 6 questions.
Well, yeah, 27, so I'll take 2. There was a statement you made there a second ago, Nick, about some writers who didn't know how to find the heart and soul of characters. So, based on that, why do you think Mike Costa didn't work on the Transformers comic? That's the first one.
Why are you mentioning Mike Costa? Seems weird, mate.
What's your take on it? Why do you think it didn't work with him? Because he did tremendously well on G.I. Joe, taking all those kind of ancillary characters and making something of them, but not so much on Transformers. And the second question is, so I can hand the mic back, looking forward to the Transformers 84, what are your sort of thoughts on it as well? Thank you.
I'm looking forward to Transformers 84 because I like Simon Furman Transformers comics. That's my answer. I don't think I've got an answer to the other question.
Comic professionals don't answer questions about other people's work, generally speaking, unless it's crazy. I mean, I'm certainly not going to sit up here and say what I think went wrong with anyone's work. But Transformers 84, Simon was talking about it at LFCC a couple of weeks ago, and what I didn't realise was that it was kind of this also happened at the same time as these big events. So yeah, I think it's a nice, unique take. And he was saying that if the sales are, good enough, because at this stage they don't know, but his hope is that there'll be more to come. So we'll see those big storylines. And then we'll see what also was going on at the same time as well. So yeah, that comic just sounds brilliant.
Yeah, no, it sort of just injected into my veins really. It goes, it straddles the American and the British, 80s dual continuity. So yeah, knits that together. I'm all for that.
There's something really comfy about Simon Furman Transformers though. It always feels right.
Yeah, and it looks the part as well. It looks great. And also, it just reminded me that. Fantastically for this franchise, nothing's ever really left alone forever. Anything can be brought back. You can always tell more stories in a hitherto sort of defunct or abandoned continuity. We've seen the animated season 4 read through today. There's always enough interest that eventually, and G2 as well. Things will be added to, and and I've been asked a lot. I don't know about you, Jack, but a lot of questions this weekend about would you resurrect Lost Light? Would you return to the crew? Would you tell more stories? And there are no plans to do that. I haven't. Go back to an earlier question that I was asking. I do now that sort of the monthly production schedule and the speed of it's gone, and you can reflect. I do miss writing about the characters. No plans to write about them again. If one day there was other stories to be told, I'm pretty certain they'd be stories that slot into old stories rather than take place after issue 25. I think issue 25 is the end, was the end of the beginning, but I think that's we leave what happens after that, or I leave it unexplored anyway.
Well, sadly we won't have any time for questions, but for those of you that did have your hands up, make sure to go to the gentleman's table over the course of the day, ask those questions and buy things from them as well. Show your appreciation with money as well.
Das war das Diskussionspanel zu IDW's Escalation Saga von der TFNation 2019. Wenn es euch gefallen hat, gebt mir einen Daumen nach oben und abonniert diesen Kanal für wöchentlich neue Videos rund um Transformers und andere Sammelfiguren. Bis dahin sage ich vielen Dank fürs Zuhören, bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao.